Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
The Dark Knight, an undeniable masterpiece by Christopher Nolan that has won praise from critics and viewers alike, turned 15 this year. It is one of the most significant and influential films in Hollywood history. This 2008 superhero epic smashed box office records and went beyond the genre's boundaries to elevate cinematic excellence to a new level. While the story of The Dark Knight was obviously heavily influenced by comic book, particularly the critically acclaimed The Long Halloween and The Killing Joke, Nolan has also added some tasteful elements from non-genre films. The most notable is Heat, a crime drama thriller directed by Michael Bay and starring Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. In Man's epic, Lieutenant Hannah Pacino is pursuing a gang of criminals led by the elusive Neil McClellan. De Niro in a suspenseful, realistic chase movie. Although they are very different characters, Nolan was able to employ the template by casting Batman and Gordon as Hannah and the Joker as the erratic and cunning McClellan. Nolan also took Heat's framework and expertly transformed it into a superhero-themed story without appearing ridiculous or cliched. Because of this, The Dark Knight is a masterpiece that captivates audience worldwide due to its filthy atmosphere, intrinsic characters, and the hypnotic performance of the late Heath Ledger as the Joker. The Joker, as depicted by Ledger, is nothing short of astonishing. His performance goes beyond the stereotype of a comic book villain, providing a spine-chilling and unique representation. The Joker is a symbol of disorder and anarchy who wants to undermine society's moral system. Because of his erratic temperament and unnerving qualities, he is one of the most identifiable villains in film history. And what's ingenious about the Joker is that he originally appeared sporting a white mime-like mask in addition to green hair and clown-like makeup. Despite playing a significant role in the character's design, the mask was eventually written out of the movie's script. Nolan had the notion and used the iconography of early silent films as his source of inspiration. Although the Joker himself removes the mask during the opening heist of the film, it ultimately represents the fact that the clown makeup isn't really a disguise, it is real face, and that the Joker's lack of identity, who he really is, making him potentially more terrifying and amplified by the fact that his only objective in the movie is to cause chaos for the sake of chaos. As the Joker says himself,
"I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it."
While Ledger personally made recommendations for the appearance of his role, he wanted the Joker's makeup applied asymmetrically, with the two sides of his face being painted differently. Peter King and Chris Nolan ultimately agreed. In addition, they employed specific colours to portray moods. For instance, the team chose brighter green tones on Ledger's left side of his face and more subdued tones on his right. As a result of the Joker's lack of concern for maintaining his appearance, his makeup is soiled and dented throughout the entire movie. That choice was used to demonstrate how hurriedly the character puts his makeup on and to assist communicate this messy disposition. The Dark Knight explores deep issues of morality, sacrifice, and the blurry line between heroism and vigilantism as Batman and the Joker come face to face. The audience conception of what it means to be a hero is put to the test in The Dark Knight, as Batman must make moral complex decisions and deal with the repercussions of his choices. It should be noted that The Dark Knight is one of the few superhero films that goes beyond the usual time-honored cliches. The opening sequence is evocative of 21st century heist thrillers, and the thieves' double-crossing strengthens their furious, quick-tempered attitude with its fast-paced adrenaline rush. Because Ledger's Joker murders friends and rivals, both must be wary of him. In the early parts of the movie, we can also see the repercussions of Batman Begins, as vigilante justice now extends to imitators who don armor and clothing mimicking those of the Caped Crusader. These vigilantes are key to understanding Batman's relationship with Nolan's bleak streets of Gotham, not as a persona, but as a notion of justice. This would have been a lot less effective without them. In addition to the cowl and cape, Christian Bale dons the tail armor necessary to emphasize the Dark Knight's most engaging moments. Scars and bruises from the on-job injuries are readily shown, but they never appear to deter or hamper his performance. Although his previous misbehavior has left an imprint on him, his battle prowess never reflects these dark, wounded moments. It's a shame, since it might have dramatically increased the tension between the Wayne Batman persona and its breaking state. This alter ego must be compared to Harvey Dent's forced change in this case. Aaron Eckhart almost steals the movie with his portrayal of Harvey Dent, but doesn't overshadow the main enemy of The Dark Knight. Two-Face has a notable progressive progressive loss of sanity rather than a rapid exposure to madness. As revered as the Joker as the villain, and rightfully so, Two-Face proved to be the clown prince of crime's ideal partner, although it takes some time for the plot to plan Harvey Dent's downfall in order to have the greatest emotional impact. They both had a magnetic presence even when they weren't speaking to one another. Two-Face and the Joker serve as fantastic examples of fascinating comic book supervillains sharing a screen without interfering with each other's goals. Dent's logical and honourable beginnings that soon deteriorate into lunacy almost captivated me more than Ledger. However, the Joker's authority tips the hat here. Eckhart demonstrates the intricacies and complexities of the heads or tails gimmick. His creative flair comes early in the method, in which he chronicles his legal arguments and he demonstrates rejuvenated masculinity in the face of jeopardy. When the gun is levelled at him, he does not flee or cry, instead he grabs and dismantles it. These are exceptional events because they emphasize the need of upholding the stereotype of the typical American hero in times of tremendous need. Eckhart changes into a deranged maniac, lacking half of his face, his white teeth, red rage and blue eyes, making him even more susceptible to rationalization his own intentions, which are to exact retribution for the murder of his loved one. The conclusion of Batman Begins skillfully planted the seeds for the Dark Knight's payout. Batman Begins was a fantastic origin story for a caped crusader of the new cinematic age. The latter had a compelling narrative that can stand on its own 2 feet, but the fears of then Sergeant James Gordon regarding escalation in the film's last scene proves ominous. Without undermining the excellence that Begins accomplished, The Dark Knight succeeds in that theme. The Joker provided the ideal example of the effects of escalation, in addition to being a thrilling and anxiety-inducing villain. Speaking of supporting character, Gordon, superhero movies usually focus on a single character and often feature a large cast of supporting characters to enhance the setting, offer some exposition, or serve as an entry point for the viewer to learn more about the hero. Only a few of them depict these individuals, accomplishing more than serving as the usual plot devices. However, the supporting players in The Dark Knight were given prominent roles and played a crucial role in the plot. In addition to Gordon and Harvey Dent, Rachel, Lucius, and Alfred all contributed as fairly fledged sidekicks who could hold their own in the fight to defeat the Joker. This changed the narrative from being a single man to being about a group.
I am the Batman.
Anyway, if you could league alike, that would be great. Superhero films typically have some sort of struggle that overflows into the streets of the city, while stunned bystanders watch as their characters fight a cool adversary. Despite being chaotic and excessive, the destruction feels entirely without consequence. In The Dark Knight, destruction was depicted in a way that unnerving and alarmed viewers. The bloodshed seemed plausible and realistic. One example of the real-world suspense the movie created was watching a hospital become demolished by bombs. Due to an internet rumour, Heath Ledger's improvisational abilities in The Dark Knight were received excessive attention. The fact that Nolan was famously permitted to really blow up a building for this sequence meant that he only had one chance to get it right. The sequence shows the Joker leaving the hospital as bombs go off, and it doesn't end until he boards the bus to leave. Joker, though, is briefly perplexed when not all the charges explode, before being surprised by the final powerful explosion. Ledger's improv skills, which included an understanding that he had to remain in character until the sequence was over, have been credited for creating that scene for years. It was though that Ledger's squirming was a spur-of-the-moment choice and the Joker's amazement that Ledger was real. However, this is untrue, and is a common misconception regarding this scene from The Dark Knight. Actually, Nolan had planned the delay as a way to film the sequence practically while keeping Ledger safe. This was confirmed by Nolan in the bonus material for The Dark Knight's home release, Gotham Uncovered. Creation of a scene, he stated the following: Special effects supervisor Chris Cordball was able to come up with a scenario in which Heath could actually be walking out of the building, because what Chris worked out is if he could put in a little beat, there would be the first set of explosions stops as if something's gone wrong, and the Joker takes a second to look around surprised, like the audience is surprised. Then the major demolition comes in, and he jumps straight onto the school bus. In that way, he was able to come up with a practical scenario in which he could actually take a principal actor, walk him out of a building that's about to be destroyed, and literally drop the building to the ground. Although it makes for a fantastic narrative or interesting piece of trivia about The Dark Knight, the notion that Ledger was able to repair a damaged scene is unquestionably untrue. The scenario was not only formed exactly as Nolan and the crew desired, but it also followed rigorous preparation. Without rehearsals, a sequence this large and precise could not be performed completely or safely. Everyone on the set agreed because of this. However, this does not take away from Ledger's excellent performance here. Modern superhero films should take a long, hard look at themselves and borrow a page page from the Dark Knight's playbook. Not every story has to be about rescuing the world, looking at you Marvel, but a contained plot where we can see the genuine risk to everyday people and where we can see the stake. Like the ending of The Dark Knight on the two boats, we get true emotional drama from ordinary people. Why should we worry if the world is in danger, if it is in danger every single movie or TV show? On a human level, there are no true emotional stakes. However, every frame of The Dark Knight exhibits Christopher Nolan's mastery. Viewers are immersed in the movie thanks to its beautiful cinematography, breathtaking action scenes, and exquisite attention to detail. Nolan expertly blends real-world and computer-generated effects to create aesthetically spectacular set pieces that seem grounded and authentic. Additionally, Wally Pfister's cinematography for the film contributes to its gloomy, somber atmosphere. The image of Gotham City as a grim and run-down metropolis reflects the moral deterioration that affects its residents. The film's authenticity is enhanced by utilized real locals and little CGI, immersing the viewer more deeply in the story. I adore this movie.
Here we go.
Even today, The Dark Knight stands out because it expertly placed its events and story in the real world while nevertheless caring just as much about everyday people as it did about the larger-than-life heroes and villains. In addition, it is unquestionably a crime thriller first, a thriller second, and a superhero action movie third. The most exciting sequences in this 180 million summer blockbuster are discussions between our three heroes and subsequent fallen hero Harvey Dent and the Joker. The stars align for Chris Nolan's Dark Knight with interests leading up to the release, franchise goodwill, and real-life tragedy, all of which contributed to the advance and exceptional work for a perfect summer blockbuster.
All of us who worked with Heath on The Dark Knight accept this with an awful mixture of sadness but incredible pride.
Hollywood has never quite understood the key to its success, and 15 years later, they're still trying to perfect this formula. The Dark Knight was a brilliant, passionate, audience-pleasing character drama that also happened to be a fantastic action movie, an exquisite suspense thriller based on one of the most well-known fictional characters in the world. The Dark Knight was successful not because it followed a formula that could be easily imitated, but because it delivered a straightforward, intimate tale. It made $1 billion in the summer of 2008, and that was without China, because it was an undeniable masterpiece. Well, that's enough rambling for one day.